Welcome to Cheat Masters. Join us for relatable cheating stories that will make you laugh, cry, and nod your head in recognition. Asterisk, asterisk, the breakup that changed everything. Asterisk, asterisk. Arya sat by the window, her fingers tracing the rim of her coffee mug as rain cascaded down the glass. It had been a month since everything fell apart, and yet the memory of that night still lingered, sharp as ever. She and Rohan had been inseparable for 3 years. Everyone said they were perfect together, the kind of couple that would last forever. Arya believed it, too, until the cracks in their seemingly unbreakable bond began to show. It started with Rohan becoming distant. He'd cancel plans, spend hours on his phone, and his excuses became half-hearted. Arya had given him space, trusting that he'd come back to her, but then she started noticing things that didn't add up. One evening, while scrolling through her messages, Arya received a text from her best friend, Mira. Asterisk, Arya, I don't know how to tell you this, but I think you should see this. Asterisk. Attached was a screenshot. It was a conversation between Rohan and another girl, someone Arya didn't recognize. The messages weren't just casual. They were intimate, filled with words he once reserved for her. Her heart sank. She stared at the screen, disbelief clouding her vision. Could this really be happening? The confrontation was inevitable. That night, when Rohan came over, she placed her phone on the table, the screenshot open for him to see. "What's this?" she asked, her voice trembling. Rohan froze, his face a mask of guilt. "Arya, it's not what it looks like." "Not what it looks like," she interrupted, her anger rising. "So, you weren't sneaking behind my back? You weren't calling her babe or making plans to meet up?" He tried to explain, but the damage was done. The betrayal cut too deep. Arya couldn't listen anymore. The person she thought she knew, the person she loved, had shattered her trust. The breakup wasn't dramatic. It was quiet, almost eerily so. Arya simply asked him to leave. Rohan didn't argue. He knew there was no coming back from this. In the weeks that followed, Arya tried to piece herself back together. She leaned on her friends, poured herself into work, and started journaling her thoughts. The pain was raw, but with time, it began to dull. One day, while walking through the park, she bumped into someone she hadn't seen in years. Arjun, an old friend from college. They talked for hours, laughing and reminiscing. For the first time in weeks, Arya felt like she could breathe again, though she wasn't ready for anything new. Meeting Arjun reminded her that life didn't end with heartbreak. She had survived the betrayal, and she knew now that she deserved honesty, loyalty, and love. And maybe, just maybe, the rain washing down her window wasn't so bad after all. It was cleansing, preparing her for a new beginning. In the weeks that followed her unexpected reunion with Arjun, Arya found herself looking forward to their chats. It started casually, just two friends catching up on life. They'd meet at the park for coffee or take long walks while talking about everything and nothing at all. Arjun was easy to be around. He didn't pry into her breakup or push her to talk about the pain she was still healing from. Instead, he focused on making her laugh and helping her rediscover the little joys she had forgotten. One evening, as they sat on a bench watching the sun dip below the horizon, Arjun turned to her, his tone light yet sincere. "You know, Arya, I don't think I've seen you smile like this since college. It suits you." She felt her cheeks flush, but instead of brushing it off, she let herself feel the warmth of the compliment. It wasn't something she'd allowed herself to feel in a long time. Appreciated, seen, and cared for without any strings attached. Over time, Arya noticed something else. She was beginning to let go of the bitterness she felt toward Rohan. It wasn't forgiveness exactly, but rather an acceptance that what had happened was out of her control. She couldn't change the past, but she could choose not to let it define her future. One night, as she was scrolling through her phone, a notification popped up, a message from Rohan. Asterisk, Arya, I know I have no right to ask, but can we talk? I miss you. Asterisk. Her heart skipped a beat, not from longing, but from the clarity she now felt. A few weeks ago, she might have considered it. She might have believed his words and allowed herself to hope for something that was never meant to be. But now, she knew better. She typed out a response and sent it without hesitation. Asterisk Rohan, I wish you well, but we don't need to talk. Please take care of yourself, asterisk. For the first time in months, she felt free. The next day, she told Arjun about the message. He listened without interrupting, his expression thoughtful. When she finished, he gave her a small nod of approval. I'm proud of you, he said simply. Arya smiled. I'm proud of me too. As the months passed, their friendship deepened, and eventually, Arya realized that what she felt for Arjun wasn't just gratitude or companionship. It was something more. But instead of rushing into anything, they took their time. Arjun respected her boundaries, and Arya learned to trust again one day at a time. One evening, under a sky full of stars, Arjun finally took her hand in his. I know you've been through a lot, Arya, but I want you to know I'm here not to fix you, but to walk beside you. Wherever this goes, I'm all in. Tears welled up in her eyes, but this time they weren't from sadness. They were from hope. I think I'm ready to try, she whispered. And for the first time in what felt like forever, Arya didn't just feel like she was moving on. She felt like she was moving forward. Arya and Arjun's relationship blossomed slowly, like the first rays of sunlight after a long storm. It wasn't hurried or overwhelming. It was steady and comforting, built on trust and mutual respect. For the first time in a long while, Arya felt like she could breathe deeply, without the weight of the past dragging her down. One afternoon, they found themselves walking through an art gallery. Arya had always loved art, but during her time with Rohan, she had stopped indulging in the things that made her happy. Arjun had noticed her lingering gaze on a flyer advertising a local exhibit and surprised her with tickets. This one's my favorite, Arya said, stopping in front of a painting, a swirling mix of blues, greens, and golds that looked like an endless ocean under a starlit sky. It feels free. Arjun studied the painting, then turned to her with a gentle smile. Kind of like you. She tilted her head, giving him a curious look. What do you mean? You're finding yourself again, he said softly, and it's beautiful to see. The warmth in his voice sent a shiver through her, and for the first time in their relationship, Arya felt an overwhelming urge to kiss him, but she didn't. Not yet. Instead, she squeezed his hand and whispered, "Thank you." It was moments like these that made Arya realize how different things were with Arjun. He didn't demand anything from her. He didn't push her to move faster than she was ready. He simply existed in her life, offering her a safe space to grow and heal. But life wasn't without its challenges. One evening, Arya ran into Rohan at a cafe. He was sitting alone, looking disheveled and worn. For a moment, she considered walking past him, but then he noticed her. "Arya," he called out, his voice uncertain. She hesitated, then walked over. "Hi, Rohan." He looked up at her, guilt and regret etched into his features. "You look happy." "I am," she said simply, and it was the truth. He nodded, his gaze dropping to the table. "I just wanted to say, I'm sorry for everything. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I needed to say it." Arya didn't feel the anger she once did, nor did she feel pity. Instead, she felt closure. "Thank you, Rohan. I hope you find what you're looking for." As she walked out of the cafe, she realized just how far she had come. The old Arya might have been tempted to let him back in, but the person she was now knew better. She deserved more. Later that night, she met Arjun for dinner. She told him about the encounter, expecting him to react with jealousy or frustration. Instead, he just smiled. "I'm glad you got to say what you needed to," he said. "But just so you know, I'm here if you ever need to talk about it." In that moment, Arya felt a surge of gratitude, so strong it almost brought tears to her eyes. "You're incredible, you know that," she said, her voice thick with emotion. Arjun chuckled. "I try." The days turned into weeks, and the weeks turned into months. One evening, as they stood on the beach watching the sun dip below the horizon, Arjun pulled a small box from his pocket. "Arya," he began, his voice steady but filled with emotion, "you've taught me what love truly means. It's not about fixing someone or making them whole. It's about walking beside them, through the good and the bad, and growing together. I want to walk beside you for the rest of my life. Will you marry me?" Arya's heart swelled with a mixture of surprise, joy, and overwhelming love. She didn't need to think twice. "Yes," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. 1,000 times yes. As he slipped the ring onto her finger, Arya realized something profound. Her breakup with Rowan hadn't been the end of her story. It had been the beginning of a new chapter, one filled with healing, self-discovery, and a love that was worth every ounce of pain she had endured to find it.